Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why I'm really starting to worry about this Tom Brady injury.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why I actually agree with an NBA legend who just called out LeBron. Speak for yourself starts
You're
now.
turning on LeBron?
Not turning. Listen,
Cavaliers
I argue with my wife. I'm not turning on her.
Hello and welcome. We're joined today by a couple of Super Bowl champs, Mark Schlereth and Seth Joyner. Let's start in Foxborough.
We got a story.
Where the Patriots fans are starting to get nervous with Tom Brady officially listed as questionable for Sunday's AFC Championship game after missing practice yesterday with a hand injury. Reportedly, Brady got 4 stitches in the hand after cutting it on a teammate's helmet, but he declined to offer any insight into the situation today.
How's your hand?
Not talking about it.
Thumbs up or thumbs down for Sunday?
We'll see.
You throw any footballs today?
I'm not talking about that.
How confident are you that you will be playing on Sunday?
We'll see.
What exactly happened on Wednesday?
I'm not talking about it.
You've been a high five guy in the past. Is it safe to say that you're going to be a fist pump guy for the rest of the weekend?
We'll see.
Have you ever thrown the ball with gloves? Have you ever played a game in gloves?
It's been a long time.
You said in the past that you don't.
He said 2 questions.
See ya. Thank you.
Cowherd, they playing mind games here, or is there something really wrong with Brady?
I would take Brady wearing an oven mitt over Blake Bortles. But he was agitated. It's something. It's a throwing hand. It's stitches. It's cold weather. So it's something. And a Vegas line doesn't move 2 points if it's not something. Because you know word spreads. Word spreads. And multiple people are saying it's worse than people think. Now, here's the good news. Of their 6 touchdowns, of their 5 touchdowns against Tennessee, they were all from the 6-yard line in. They're not asking him to stretch the field. They're not asking him to do a lot. It is quick, timing, efficiency, close. And they have great corners in Jacksonville. They're not asking him to throw up down the sideline. It is a fairly rhythmic, timing, short passing game.
I think that the injury is serious today. And yesterday, he missed practice. I think by Sunday, I kind of think he's going to be fine. I think we've all experienced a cut on our hand that, for a day or two bothers us. But you're talking about he's got 48, 72 hours to recover from this.
It was Wednesday, so it's actually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right. And so I think come game time, he's going to be fine. I do think it's going to limit his preparation today, and that may have some impact. But again, at the end of the day, I don't think they're playing a mind game. I think he did something here that required stitches, but I think he'll be fine come game day.
The stitches don't. The cut is nothing. The cut doesn't bother me at all. It's the x-rays. They were looking if there was a fracture. They were looking at ligament damage. If he has not the ability to grip the ball, because your thumb is what you grip it with,
deflate the
right?
ball. He won't be able to deflate.
Well, if you don't know that. But if he can't grip the ball, that would be what I would be worried about. But here's the deal. We act like Tom Brady, because we don't know about it, has never gone out and played with an injury. If you
on his throwing hand, Mark?
Anywhere. It doesn't matter. If you play in the NFL, you play hurt. You better not only play hurt, you better play injured. And you know what you better play? Well injured. And I guarantee you that guy has gone out and played exceptionally well injured. It's never a problem until it becomes a problem. If he can grip the ball, I think he'll throw it just fine. And I think the one thing, and Colin brings a great point about how quick the passing game is, the one thing you worry about is accuracy in that, because it's short pass. We think that those are the easiest passes. Those oftentimes are the hardest ones to put it with touch. You've got to layer it over a defensive player into the hands of your offensive running back, and it's got to be on his hands in stride so that he can actually get those yards. The difference between him and a lot of quarterbacks is those quarterbacks are waiting, they're turning on the back shoulder, they're stopping, they're catching the ball, and that allows that flat defender to get there and defend that route. And the next thing you know, instead of a 9-yard gain, it's 2nd down and 9. And that's the difference between the accuracy and the layered throws that you have to make in that offense.
To me, it's not an issue until it becomes an issue. Mm-hmm. If he gets into the game and he can't be effective, he can't do the things that he normally does, then it becomes an issue.
Let me ask you this, though. He missed practice yesterday.
He don't need practice.
That's not an issue?
Tom Brady doesn't need practice, okay? He already said, why would I quit when I got the answers to the test? Okay, so if it's just a physical thing, a timing thing, it's not like he doesn't know his wide receivers, not like he doesn't know what cover 2 is or cover 3 is or cover 1 is and what he wants to do against it. He doesn't need to practice. Okay, they're being precautionary because that's the right thing to do with a quarterback like this who doesn't need to practice. You got to remember what it was like back in the day, Mark, when we played. If guys showed up on the injury report and something was hurt, what was the first thing the defenses did? They went after it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay? So if there's something really wrong with that hand, the first time I go in and I rush Tom Brady, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to grab that hand. I'm going to tweak that hand. I want to see just how healthy that hand really is. And this is the Patriots' way. To not give up anything, not to give up any information, to just make it seem like, to create doubt. Watch him go out and throw for 300 yards on Sunday.
Now, Jacksonville does have great corners. So I believe this game's going to be played right in the middle of the football field. It's going to be tight end, Gronk, running backs, and I think they'll run the football pretty effectively. We're concentrating a lot on Brady and the offense. The story of this game, I would argue, is can Bortles play mistake-free football? The Patriots' defense is now #1 in the league in red zone defense. They're now 18 sacks in 3 games. Brady may not be the factor we think. The factor is with this.
No, he's playing arguably the best defense in football.
That just left 42 on the table against Pittsburgh. You can beat this defense. I think we're paying attention. I think the story of this game is not Brady. He'll be effective. The question's going to be, is Bortles capable of playing mistake-free football, and I don't think he is.
Brady will be effective. Let me tell you why. Because the New England game plan is to be able to take what the defense gives you. They're not stressing. They're not trying to force anything. They're going to take what the defense gives you, 3 yards here, 4 yards here, 5 yards here, first down, move the chains. They're going to do that until they get a little bit of lead on you. And the minute that you do something that's out of character, something that you don't want to do, the minute you come with a blitz and he gets a pre-snap read on it, that's when they take the shot downfield to Brandon Brooks. That's when they take the shot downfield to Robert Gronkowski. They're just happy to just move the ball down the field and control the flow of the football game.
Here's the deal. It's funny because I'm doing a radio show just yesterday. I'm on the phone. And somebody says, which Blake Bortles is going to show up? The Blake Bortles of Buffalo or the one that was exceptional against Pittsburgh? Said, in Buffalo, he completed 51% of his passes. In Pittsburgh, he completed 52.8% of his passes. That's exceptional. 14 to 26 for 214 yards. The difference was in the red zone, he was 5 for 5. They scored 5 touchdowns down in the red zone.
And they won't against New
They're
England
not gonna
because
do
that's
that
New
against-
England's
right.
defensive
I
core.
hope Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone and the Jacksonville, I hope they're watching this. You guys are all way overconfident on the New England Patriots. This is the best defense Brady will face this year. I will argue, and I know what Pittsburgh did to him. And again, and I know I started off talking about, look, his hands should be fine come game day. But I've seen Tom Brady go through stretches of inaccuracy. He's done that before, this season and even last season. We saw the first 3 quarters of the Super Bowl a year ago. He's capable of being off his game for a stretch, and now you're adding he's not going to get his normal preparation. I think y'all are underestimating Jacksonville way too much.
By the way, Jacksonville has been on the road. This is the 4th time in 5 weeks. Teams in the NFL that score over 40 in the playoffs, they come back the following week and they lay eggs. That's the biggest win in Jacksonville in a decade. You think they're going to match it? There's no way they're going to match that level.
Man, I've seen people get counted out. It ain't just Rocky movies. This happens in real life. When everybody sits around, oh, you got no chance. And again, we've heard him make a lot of public comments, but they're feeding off of that. I can remember the New England Patriots running out onto the field as a group against the St. Louis Rams. Oh, they got no chance. It's the greatest offense that's ever been invented. And they went out there and they took that mindset and they shoved it up the rear end of the Rams. Again, I'm not suggesting here that I think Jacksonville's going to win, but they damn sure got a chance.
I'm not minimizing in the least little bit what Jacksonville brings to the table because they are a formidable, and ferocious defense. There's no doubt about that, But you're talking about the team that's done it 5 out of the last 7 times that they've been there, You're talking about arguably the best quarterback in the history of this game. You're talking about arguably the best coach in the history of this game.
Against Doug Marrone and Blake Bortles.
Against
and
Blake
Tom
Bortles.
Coughlin, who's got a history.
Tom Coughlin, what is Tom
he's got
Coughlin?
a history.
He's not calling any plays, and he ain't making no tackle.
All right, let's say that
he might have the formula based on what they did in New York, but the dynamics are different.
By the way, those giant wins over the Patriots were on neutral fields with Eli. This is in Foxborough with Bortles.
Let's say that Brady does struggle for a quarter, okay?
Or 3.
Okay, let's say he struggles for 3. Is Jacksonville going to be up 28-0, 28-3?
No chance.
With 3/4 of the none.
By the way,
They're going to have a bet. They won't need to be because they got a better defense than Atlanta had last year, and they won't be stupid and not run the ball. They're going to run for a net. Again, I'm not predicting. I may flip.
Predict
man.
it.
Y'all
Predict it.
are way-
Go, do it.
Let me ask you a question. If this game came down to the last 2 minutes, who are you taking?
Well, the people that do it all the time. I would take Belichick and Brady.
Well, there you go.
So who do you
There
think
go.
will be good?
In all
in the
likelihood,
first
that's
2
where it's
minutes?
going to be.
I'm not sure. The 9-point spread was ridiculous. I don't like the 7.5-point spread. This is a 4-point game, in my opinion. Patriots win, but it ain't even a blowout.
Welcome back, Seth Joyner. Now joined by longtime NFL player scout Bucky Brooks. Let's move to Philadelphia, Seth's home, where the Eagles are home dogs for the second time this postseason. This time thanks in large part to the Vikings' NFL best defense, which everybody expects to do a number on Nick Foles. But the Eagles have a pretty good defense of their own, near the top of the league in nearly every major category, even beating Minnesota against the run. Whitlock, the Eagles' defense getting enough respect.
Yeah, I think so. I just happen to think Minnesota's defense is better, more complete. I think the Eagles have more big names, Fletcher Cox, Malcolm Jenkins, guys you can, rattle off the name. The Vikings guys are just revealing themselves as stars. The Eagles are getting plenty of respect. The defense is getting plenty of respect. They're getting all the credit for carrying the team here. They haven't had Carson Wentz. Nick Foles is doing a few nice things. It's the defense that's the star of that Philadelphia team. They're getting plenty of respect.
Philadelphia's always had a chip on its shoulder because in the Northeast, New York's got all the money, D.C.'s got all the power, and they just have a cheesesteak. And so Philadelphia teams are always like, nobody respects us. If Carson Wentz was here, they'd be everybody's pick for the Super Bowl. No, who
To
does
win it all, yeah.
To win it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I picked them to win the NFC East. I got pushback. I'm like, they got the best players. My only question about them is, and I think it's being answered a little bit, is Doug Peterson, who when he came to the job, we thought, and last year he was 1-6 in one-possession games, but I thought last week the Philadelphia staff had a great week. So who doesn't respect Philadelphia? Philadelphia guy.
It's a decent. I pulled you out of the abyss once talking bad about the city of Philadelphia, and you just jumped right back in the fire again. I can't help you now. Hey, listen, this defense has been a good defense for a long time. They got good players across the board. I think they'd be ranked even higher if you look at them statistically. Against the passing game, they've been up and down all year long. They had a lot of injuries. Ronald Darby, they lost him second week of the season. Yeah. He was gone for 6 weeks. They've been shuffling guys in and out, and that caused some problems. This defense is legit. There's no getting around it. Disrespect, I don't think they really care about being disrespected. I think they use it as a badge of honor. They use it as a motivation, moving forward to show everybody. You don't believe in us, the whole we all we got, we all we need mentality. The media and everybody's just playing right into that because that's what they love. They're using that as motivation. You don't think we can do it? Watch us cook.
I think the big thing with Philadelphia, their defense is outstanding. I think the one area that could be a concern at cornerback. Their cornerbacks, Ronald Darby, Jalen Mills, they have been solid, but they've been susceptible to double moves. Mm-hmm. This week, they're facing two of the best wide receivers that they're going to face, and Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Guys who are outstanding route runners, guys who can make explosive plays. If they're able to protect and keep Fletcher Cox off the quarterback, there can be some big play opportunities there. and then it's a matter of those guys winning the 50-50 balls. But if there's one area where I would say the Minnesota Vikings have a clear advantage, their secondary is better than the Eagles' secondary, and we will see how that plays out.
The issue with their secondary is, it's kind of – people talked earlier about the corners because there was so much indecision about who was going to be playing and what the secondary, specifically at the cornerback position, would look like. And I've always said the pass rush and cornerbacks, they mirror each other.
Yep.
Because when you get good pressure, then it looks like those guys on the back end are covering really
Absolutely.
well. And when you're covering really well, conversely, it looks like, those guys can get to the passer a lot faster. The issue with Philadelphia is, they play a lot of single high safety, and those corners are aggressive. So it was good for them to deal with those double moves early in the year, understanding that later on in the year, it would be something that they would have to contend with. Now, this game is going to come down to Philadelphia's defenses, their ability to completely shut down the run and force a guy like Case Keenum to throw the ball. That's what you want, because now you can mix up all your coverages and you can do some different things. You can come with some safety blitzes like they brought Rodney McLeod last week to cause some issues in the backfield. And under pressure, Case Keenum doesn't play well under pressure.
The reason why they don't get a lot of respect is because they got an offensive head coach. Minnesota has a defensive head coach.
And Minnesota's defense is better. Minnesota's third down defense is the best in 40 years. It's
but
a better
if you're the
defense.
media and you're talking to the head coach, you're going to talk to Doug Peterson about defense, you're going to talk to him about his offense. All right, welcome back. Mark Schlereth and Seth Joyner are back. Let's move to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers fired offensive coordinator Todd Haley this week, but he might have been the least of their problems. According to Ed Bouchette of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Le'Veon Bell blew off all but the last 5 minutes of the team's final walkthrough for the Jaguars game on Saturday, and then Bell and some coaches arrived much later to the game than Mike Tomlin had instructed. This Bouchette column was really amazing. Cowherd, this team has shown a lack of discipline all year. Should Pittsburgh consider cutting ties with Tomlin?
No, and I've been as critical of Mike Tomlin as anybody, I think, in the media that has a platform. No. Tom Coughlin had real issues in New York, and he adjusted. I think Mike's smart enough to adjust. I always think it's easier for coaches to go, I would say, hard to a little more lax. I think it is harder for a coach to go lax and then pretend they're the tough parent. I think that's going to be a real challenge for him because I think his DNA is he's a player's coach. But I have seen coaches adjust, and it should be noted, Sean Payton is very similar to Tomlin. Offensive guy, but emotional, choke sign on the sidelines, taunting players. I mean, and by the way, he has a Hall of Fame quarterback too. Who's more consistent, Payton's teams or Tomlin's? Tomlin's. So if you're going to criticize Tomlin, Mike's much more consistent week to week, year to year than Payton, who also shares what I believe are some of Tomlin's worst habits, which are little loose, little too emotional on the sidelines. Mike's more consistent than Payton.
Sean Payton gets a lot of credit for drawing up the plays in New Orleans, and that's his protection. I think Mike Tomlin's protection and best defense, I think, is the organization, I don't think, has empowered him to rule with an iron fist. In order to rule with an iron fist, you need say-so over personnel, some level of say-so over personnel, and I don't think Tomlin really has any. And so that's the way Bill Belichick can rule with an iron fist, because if he says, hey, we're getting rid of this guy, they're getting rid of that guy. Tomlin's not empowered to do that, so it's much harder. And so I think the Pittsburgh Steelers organization has been the gold standard in the NFL for a long time. They may need to reevaluate how they do business. Instead of having a puppet for a head coach, they may need to go try to find someone who can rule with an iron fist, someone they can give some say-so over personnel, or they need to give some of it to Tomlin and make him more powerful so he can rule and have a much more disciplined team.
This Le'Veon Bell story was remarkable.
My question always is, when you want to talk about a coach of this stature with a 65% winning percentage, okay, 8-7 in the playoffs, who out there is better? Who are you going to go and find to bring in to be able to do what this guy has been able to do? Okay? McVay is the anomaly. He is not the norm. He is not the norm. You can go out there and try to find the next greatest, latest. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the case, that he's going to come in and be able to turn things around.
I don't want to cut you off. I want you to clarify, though. There are some people that say Jeff Fisher would love to work with that roster. That roster is why he's won 65% of his games and has an 8-7 playoff record. It's the roster more than
you can't. I get your point, but you cannot minimize a coach's success. That's like yesterday, Colin, when I came on the Herd. You talked about Doug Peterson and that the defense is the star and that Jim Schwartz is the reason why the team is doing. You can't minimize that. Doug Peterson is the head coach. If he's the head coach, then he gets all the credit. When Jim Schwartz gets another job, then he can get all the credit.
This. Do you remember the '85 Bears?
Yes.
Do you think Buddy Ryan or Mike Ditka was more important?
Well, absolutely.
Who was more important, Mike Ditka or Buddy Ryan?
There's no doubt about it that Buddy Ryan was more important. Right. But that's a different dynamic. You're talking about one of the greatest defenses of all time. When you start talking about Mike Tomlin and what he brings to this organization and this team, there's somewhere out here somehow media or whatever it is that wants to see this guy out of Pittsburgh.
I would agree.
My point is, be careful what you wish for, because the next guy you bring in may come in and make a mess out of something that's been good for a long time.
Why is Tomlin's side of the ball so bad? The offense is fine. Mike doesn't deal with that. Like Sean Payton, I criticize him, but his side of the ball is great. Why is Tomlin's side of the ball bad and deteriorating?
But it's not even the side of the ball. It's in-game decision. It's kicking the onside kick when you have 2 minutes and change, and you've got the 2-minute warning and 2 timeouts. It's just you're giving up. Like, we haven't been able to get a 3-and-out all game. Well, you know what? You better fix that and get a 3-and-out, because the odds of you getting a 3-and-out are far greater than receiving an onside kick, which is about 12%. So, I mean, it was just the mismanagement of the game. But to fire him, hell, I mean, this has been the way it's been since he's been there. Right. Like, you talk about, I always say this, it's one thing to appoint a coach, another thing to empower a coach. And if you haven't been empowered, it becomes very hard. I will say this, though. You know, it's an easy fix. Hey, you don't show up 2 hours before the game. Everybody's had that rule. It was a rule when I was in football. It was a rule when you were in football. You don't show up on time, you don't get to play. Like, there's the only way you can fine a guy $100 or $1,000. You know, it doesn't mean anything to these guys. It doesn't. You know what means something? Take away recess.
Listen,
you don't get to play.
Mark, you're making a hell of a point. But when it's Le'Veon Bell.
Well, you have to have rules.
What do? It's Le'Veon Bell. And
I don't give a crap if it's Stretch Armstrong. Like, you don't show up on time, you don't get to play.
5 minutes of the Saturday before.
Listen, I'm gonna put this out here and then I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay. When I hear stories like this, I'm always conscious and I'm always wondering about the source. Okay. And then you got to understand that if Mike Tomlin is a player's coach, that some guys, not everybody on that team is treated the same. So how do you know that Le'Veon Bell wasn't excused the last 5 minutes of the walkthrough?
No.
How do
he
you
didn't
know?
show up until the last 5 minutes of the walkthrough.
But
my point is, if they got rules that Le'Veon, you ain't got to be here till the last 5 minutes.
That's not
before
a
an
rule.
Important playoff game.
Listen, I can remember in preseason when I was in Philadelphia. Okay, Buddy Ryan allowed Randall Cunningham in the third quarter to leave.
What you said?
To
preseason?
leave. To leave.
Did
Doesn't
you say
matter.
preseason?
Doesn't
you
matter.
Said preseason.
Everybody on the team is not treated equal, even though you think that that's the case. So how do you know that Mike Tomlin didn't excuse him and allow him to show up 5? How do you know that these coaches weren't?
That's pretty credible.
Hey,
I think there's.
Listen. So where do you get the information?
You got to let Le'Veon Bell go, in my opinion.
Well,
I read that story. You got to let.
Really?
That's our next story.
Let him go.
We don't have time. This is it now. We're running out of time.
Listen, I would get rid of Le'Veon Bell, and here's why. Weeks 1 through 10, Le'Veon Bell averaged 25 carries a game, and they scored 21 points a game. Week 11 on for the Steelers, they reduced him 9 carries a game. They averaged 32.5 points. Okay, he ain't running that offense. Big Ben and that O-line and those three great receivers are that offense.
I want to see who they played in those last couple of games that you threw those statistics at. Because I'm going to tell you right now, that most of their offense runs through Le'Veon.
Jacksonville's
It's
one of those
no
teams.
different. It's no different than your time in Denver.
I'd let
Mark,
Le'Veon
okay?
Bell go.
How much?
I would.
How much success did John Elway have?
Oh,
I have a ton
stop
of
it.
respect for him.
Stop it.
How much respect did he have until Mike Shanahan implemented TD?
They had when they went to 3 Super Bowls before, John Elway made Gaston Green and a bunch of guys good running back.
John Elway carried
They didn't
that
win
point,
nothing, though.
But yeah, the whole point for me though, the whole point for me, just as an organization, is I understand that there are different rules. You know, the old saying, if Emmitt Smith falls asleep in a meeting, you shake him. If the fifth string running back falls asleep, you cut him, right? I mean, I understand that aspect of it. But the bottom line to winning championships to me is having an atmosphere within your locker room where you care more about the guys you play with than you care about yourself. And if you show up to a game and you're late, you know what it says? It says, I care more about me than I care about anybody on this team. And that's a recipe for losing. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, listen, you can have separate rules. There's no coach ever that's had this rule. Just show up an hour before the game. I mean, the nicest, loosest coach in the world's never
Talking
had.
about assistant coaches doing it too. Those are your guys.
If that's the case, then he needs to drop the hammer. If that's the case, then he needs to
Well,
drop
Ed
the hammer.
Bichette's a good reporter.
You got to drop the hammer. You got to make somebody an example, and that stops all the nonsense.
Welcome back. Joined now by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard, founder of The Big Lead. Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the association where LeBron was the leading vote getter from fans in the All-Star game, for the All-Star game, but actually finished second in the player voting, right behind the Greek Freak. After the results were announced, Charles Barkley explained why he wasn't surprised that LeBron came in second among players.
LeBron is a great player and a great guy, but he's a drama queen.
All right, Whitlock. Barkley have a point here. Is LeBron a drama queen?
Yeah, I think without question, and I think more importantly, I do think there are guys around the league that recognize this and are bothered by it and, are kind of like, I'm tired of hearing about LeBron. And so, are they trying to anoint the Greek Freak as the guy? Probably.
Listen, there are players that are great players. Favre had a lot of drama. Kobe did. Sammy Sosa did. Our friend A-Rod did. I think LeBron does. I think LeBron can be a little manipulative and a little dramatic. I think a part of this is LeBron's the world's biggest star in American sports. He is the Cristiano Ronaldo of his continent, and I think you get entitled, and I think you get a little needy, and I almost sort of give him a pass on it. Like when you're the best basketball player in America for a decade and a half in the world, I give you a pass.
Well, and has been in the spotlight since he was 15, so more than half of his life. I wouldn't go as far as drama queen, unquestionably passive-aggressive. Certainly some players around the league get tired of a lot of his antics. But I would say LeBron, I don't know that he's any more dramatic or brings any more drama than a lot of players, historically and today. I think a lot of this is just a result of his greatness and the social, the social media age that we live in right now. And not just social.
Names.
Chris Paul. Chris Paul has created just as much drama on his teams. His relationship with Blake Griffin, I would argue his relationship with Blake Griffin was worse than any relationship LeBron's had with a teammate, including Kyrie. He's not LeBron James, though. We don't
go back.
Magic Johnson went to Jerry West and said, "It's Paul Westhead or me?
That was
one or the other."
Broussard, you're missing.
Michael Jordan.
There you
Michael
go.
Jordan beat up Steve Kerr.
Punched a teammate.
Was gambling.
Needed
an
to do
avid
that.
gambler.
Who doesn't gamble?
But I'm going to Atlantic City during playoff series. If he lived in the social media age of today, Isaiah Thomas gets all the Eastern Conference players to ice out Michael Jordan in the All-Star game.
He's needed to be done.
I'm just saying, LeBron is no different. You know I'm right.
Broussard is 100% right. I looked this up in the Urban Dictionary, and it says, can't keep relationships going. That's Michael Jordan in his prime. And there's nothing wrong with that. As Colin said, Brett Favre, drama queen. Kobe Bryant, drama queen. This is a guy, Michael Jordan, who retired twice, who feuded with the front office, who, as you said, punched out teammates. Listen, LeBron has had plenty of drama. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a drama queen in sports.
I can say this. In my life, I remember hearing this when I got into sportscasting in the 80s. NBA is a players' league. Football is a coaching sport. Listen, man, if you're the best player in this league, Tim Duncan is a complete exception.
Yes.
Yeah, Tim Duncan.
Oh, you got one.
One guy. But, hey, what was the biggest?
Remember when Michael Jordan went to Michael Wilbon and a couple, maybe one other reporter, and said, LeBradford Smith was talking junk to me after he dropped like 40 on Mike or something. He made it up. So the next night, Mike went out and put 40 on him in like the first half, something like that. He made up a story. He made up drama to get himself motivated. I mean, come on.
Guys, what is the best storyline in the NFL playoffs right now?
NFL playoffs?
Tom Brady
Right.
being a drama queen with Jimmy Garoppolo's situation and his trainer on the sideline and Belichick feuding. Tom Brady's a drama queen. There's nothing wrong with that. You could argue that there is a parallel between greatness and being a drama queen. And I think they line up.
Listen,
100%.
the way it works now, I mean, I can remember reading Steve Largent was a great receiver. He made $80,000 a year. Okay, guys now make $80,000 a quarter. When you give anybody that kind of power and money, they get entitled. They get demanding. I mean, it's just the reality of professional American sports.
I also don't know if it's drama. I mean, if there were reporters sniffing out everything that goes on here or at other networks, I mean, they might be writing salacious stories about us, sensationalizing it a little bit, make the relationships look a little bit worse than they actually are. I mean,
Chris Broussard, drama queen. If the shoe fits, right?
There's probably some truth to that. All right, well, this year, we'll see a new All-Star game format with the top 2 vote-getters picking their starters from a pool of players voted into the game. LeBron and Steph Curry will be the team captains, and while picking the teams live could make for great, entertaining television, the picks will be made behind closed doors and then revealed to the public on January 25th. Cowherd, how huge of a mistake is this not to televise these picks?
It's really a mistake. You know, it's funny. You know why they're doing it. Because what they don't want to do is LeBron get into a situation where I got to pick Kevin Love, and then like Curry's got to pick Klay Thompson. It just becomes the Warriors, Cavs. They don't want to compromise the game. You want to have the best. But my point is, one of the things the NBA has always done well, sometimes the games are secondary to the stories. And they've done a great job at that. Baseball stinks at that. Baseball has stars, hides them. NBA takes average players and make them stars. This would be incredible TV.
Yeah, what you just described to me is what I believe. Skin is so thin in professional sports now that no one could handle this. That if LeBron didn't pick someone in a certain spot, someone may ball up in a fetal position and cry on national TV and then hold a grudge throughout the game and throughout the rest of the season. That's how spoiled and pampered these guys are. Not like the old days when men were men and people could handle this. They can't handle it now.
No, look, I was on Chris Mannix's Yahoo Sports podcast last night, and I said they should televise it. But the more I think about it, I'm saying the NBA is making the right call. Because, look, a lot of things would be, as you said, incredible TV. It would be. But that's good for fans only. It's not good for basketball. You know what else would be incredible TV? If we were in the war room of every single team at trade deadline. We could find out if Oklahoma City, they're trying to trade Westbrook for Steph Curry. But would that'd be great TV? Would it be good for the sport of basketball? No. I mean, this is a business, it's entertainment, but it's also a sport. And it would be no good for the league to have Klay Thompson watch Steph Curry pick Jimmy Butler and DeMar DeRozan before. I'm sorry, it's not, if I was the NBA, they made the right call. It's just not good business.
But there are only a handful of those situations. I mean, seriously.
This is one of them.
Well, there's like 3. Okay, is LeBron going to take Kyrie Irving? That would be a massive one. But does anybody care
That's
if LeBron...
not even, no, I'm talking about the dynamics of a team. For Golden State, it could be disastrous if Steph doesn't pick Durant or picks shooting guards over Klay. If LeBron doesn't pick Kevin Love, that's not good for the Cavs. It's not good for the game of basketball. I'm sorry. Wouldn't you want to have unlimited locker room access? Of course. Wouldn't we want cameras in the locker room 24/7 so we could really see the dynamic? Be incredible TV. Is it good for basketball?
Chris, is NBA All-Star Weekend what it's devolved into? Is it good for basketball? They don't play hard. No one participates in the dunk contest. The weekend's not what it used to be. So so if there was a way to improve it with this draft, and so some feelings might get hurt, get over it.
It's not worth it with your team. You said when men were men. Barkley played, right, when men were men.
Yeah.
He said he'd be upset at Magic Johnson if he picked Karl Malone before him. But guess what? That's fine, because they're not teammates. But what about James Worthy? If Magic picked, some small forward before. No, it's not good for a team.
You can't get over it?
I needed a guard.
It's the same reason that the NBA teams don't let the media into their practices. Because if there's a fight, the media will take it and run with it, and those two players will never get along for the rest of their careers, according to the media. When in actuality, it might have been an emotional fight. That night, they hanging out at the club together. I get it. If I'm the NBA, I'm like, look, we got enough storylines. We got enough drama. I don't need the Golden State Warriors players getting upset with each other.
Yeah, I mean, who are we
we
appealing
doing
to?
Do you want cameras in the war room?
No, I don't. I can draw the line.
Right?
I can draw the line there. But for the All-Star weekend
this is
to make
fun,
it better,
Chris.
No,
it's a fun
it ain't
weekend.
all about fun. This is business. And if you got one of the best teams in history and now the players are going at it, oh, yeah, that's drama. Do we want basketball or do we want a soap
You're
opera?
overthinking.
I'm not.
And
Why
so if
didn't
Steph
NBA do
Curry
it then?
passes on Klay Thompson, you think LeBron's gonna be like, I gotta get Klay. I gotta get Klay on my team.
No,
It's
I
not how
think
it
Klay's
works.
gonna be like in his mind. Oh, he thinks Jimmy Butler's better
It
than
doesn't
me?
mean that. You could different
It
positions.
does mean
Chris.
that.
You can
No,
play
they're
Butler
the
and
same
Thompson.
position.
Oh, come on.
I'm telling you, Steph better. If it's on TV, he better take Klay Thompson as a first.
The Warriors supposedly dangled Klay Thompson
about
2
this?
years ago in trade bait. Remember that for Kevin Love? The rumors were out there. Like, let's not overthink
There are
this.
rumors out there. It wasn't on national TV. You can deny
Klay
rumors.
Thompson has
the
to
front
wait.
office can deny rumors.
We live in a society where America's Got Talent, American Idol, we put 15-year-olds on national TV, and we humiliate them. You're not good enough. You're terrible. And those 15-year-olds go on to live fine lives. We can't offend Klay Thompson?
Yeah, a guy
It's
who makes,
his
what, $15
teammate.
million
It's your
a year?
teammate. I don't care if Kyrie offends Klay Thompson.
Hey, you're my
It's your
teammate. I'm
teammate.
offended by this segment, and I still like you.